Hi, welcome to A Couple of Thought Podcast. We are your hosts, Chaya and
Elimelech.
Avers. Oh God, are we Avers or Evers?
Or Avers.
Depends where we live. Together, we will be discussing our passions for food, politics,
Judaism and marriage.
Yeah, exciting. So join us for our podcast and you will be blown away by our
Couple of thoughts.
מודה אני כל בוקר על האור, על עצם היותי, מודה אני עליכם שהנחת לשולחני, שלא אהיה רעב, שלא...
Welcome back everyone to A Couple of Thoughts podcast. We have missed you all very much. It's been around almost since November since we've come on the pod.
It has been a while.
But it's only because we were busy and we were living life.
Busy lives.
Having stuff going on, but...
Happy to be back.
Yes, and Melech, while we were not making podcasts, the past few months, we've been getting some really...
Nice reviews.
Nice reviews. We were in Miami in February for a bar mitzvah, and a few people came over to us, and they were like, oh my gosh, we listened to your podcast, and then we felt very, like...
Famous,
exactly.
They were starstruck.
Yeah, so... We had a few fans, which made us feel very lucky and privileged that we can be here of service to the greater audience.
The World Wide Web.
The World Wide Web. So, and then, so all of you have reached out and given us feedback. We are thankful and that you were interested enough to hear our thoughts and to listen to us.
Yep. Muchas gracias.
Yes. Exactly. We're going to try to continue being interesting. So you'll keep listening.
And we'll try to make an interesting podcast again. So we have 4 topics as usual. And
that's right. We talk about...
Let's roll right into it.
Right. So maybe we have like subtopics under our topics, but we like to usually talk about food, marriage, politics, and religion / education / Torah / I don't know, anything that falls under that category of like self-growth.
Or we find interesting to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just like our general...
framework of the podcast.
Right, but it can go anywhere.
Yeah, that's
There's lots of places to see and things to do. So...
And foods to eat.
Yes.
So we have an update.
Few updates.
Well, we haven't been online for a while, so the first about the pizza oven, we tried something new because the problem was we have built for those new listeners. We built a pizza oven after last year. We were in Italy and we saw a lot of brick pizza ovens on the street and just at random in people's backyard. So we said, we can do that too. So we built one in the backyard, but till now we're always using wood
to like heat the stone oven.
Yeah, so that is very nice and it does give an extra flavor, but the whole house smells of it. My clothing and my hair smells of it for a whole week.
And then I need to wash my sheitel because it smells like burnt wood, like a bonfire basically.
Yeah, for a long time. So I ordered a very big stove. It's like a big burner, and I put the burner instead of the wood. I put a burner today.
And we connected it to the
gas
tank from the
barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually worked out very nicely. You're missing a little bit of the flavor from the wood, but it's good enough.
It was delicious. I'm sorry, but it was the best pizza I've eaten.
And it was so much easier.
Time, and it didn't get as hot as a wooden oven could get, which was actually good because it didn't burn. It took a little longer, but it cooked more evenly. The pizza was crispy. It was amazing. And I even ventured out and decided, because I saw this at a place in France, I saw them doing it while we were waiting for one of the kids to be ready from the bathroom. I was peeking in the kitchen and I watched a chef do this to a pizza. He literally put olive oil on the dough, and then he put the cheese on, and then he drizzled heavy cream all over the top of the pizza, around. And I was like, that's so interesting, because you would think it would make the pizza soggy.
It was a little bit heavier though.
It was a heavier pizza, but it was basically a feta, Alfredo sauce, and the olive oil and the fat and the crust together just made it
It was really
crazy delicious. And then, of course, I drizzled some high-quality olive oil, gifted to me by Melech.
Yeah.
And Parmesan cheese.
It was very good.
Oh, gosh.
But as usual, we ate too much pizza.
Yeah, I overdid it a little bit today. I have been trying to stop when I'm full, but it doesn't always happen.
With pizza, that's hard.
Very hard. Oh, yeah. So I wanted to ask you a question, Melech, but before I ask you the question...
Didn't you want to ask people about your sourdough? Because your sourdough starter died?
Yeah, so my sourdough starter is...
Allah shalom.
He's not dead, but it's just like... I really need to put a lot of work and effort to revive it, and it's just not doing as good as it has been doing. It's not making the bread that it used to make. So I am in search of anyone who would like to give me some of their active starter. But so far, I have not been able to find anyone, so I may have to
your starter today.
Yeah. I may have to make a new one. But I heard that in New York you can buy ready-made starter in a little sachet from a kosher lady who actually taught me to make it.
A kosher lady. Interesting.
Kosher brand, sorry. She makes them. So maybe I'll buy them when I'm in New York. In July. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So
now,
during Corona time, I watched a documentary called Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. And I think it was actually based on a book. It's a cookbook written by Yasmin Nosrat, I think her name is. Let me just check here because I don't want to say the wrong name of somebody who worked hard to make a book. But, Samin Nosrat. That was right, not Yasmin. And she basically went through all these elements in food, like salt.
In order to build up a flavor, basically.
To build up a flavor in a recipe. And she went to, Japan and did all kinds of tasting of, soy sauces and, different salts. And she actually showed in the documentary how, when you make pasta, for example, you should over salt the water, that it almost tastes like the sea. And I have to say, ever since I started doing that, pasta...
You use a lot of salt.
I know, but the pasta tastes amazing because it becomes really salty and delicious. So when you make a recipe, like a salad or a fish recipe or a chicken recipe, you want to have the salt element. You want to have the fat element.
You want to build the flavor, basically.
That makes that caramelization.
Different layers.
You want the acidity that cuts through that saltiness. And you want heat, like that spice on your tongue. So I wanted to add one more. And what was it? Crunch.
Crunch. Right.
Okay? If I have all those 5 things inside something that I'm about to eat, I am at the ultimate height of my happiness. So, Melech, using these 5 elements of salt, fat, acid, and heat, plus crunch, can you tell me what your dream sandwich is? Because we're in the summer now, and who wants to cook? What's your dream sandwich? I want to hear how you would make it into this amazing culmination of umami.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be using all 5 parts. But my favorite sandwich would be a schnitzel sandwich, where you have crispy schnitzel.
Okay, that's a
with
crunch.
Salad, tomato. I don't like pickles, so that's not gonna be. But sriracha or something that's spicy.
That's for the heat.
That's heat.
Okay, acidity.
The crisp is the schnitzel, it's crispy schnitzel.
Okay,
What
acidity. Like the acid.
You're gonna have to do pickles, but they're not going to. Oh, you can do what's it called? Pickled onions. That's good.
Okay, that's good.
Pickled onions are good.
Yeah, and for the fat, what would hold it all together?
Mayonnaise, but I don't like mayonnaise. So, I don't know.
Why? Let's say you put a garlic mayo.
Maybe. Well, we'll put it together and then we'll eat it. I think that. And what would you make? What's your favorite sandwich?
Okay, you want me to start?
Favorite sub?
Okay, so my favorite sandwich is potentially either.
Oh, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, but a hoagie. I don't know if you've ever eaten it.
No.
I lived in New Jersey for a year, and there was a guy there in the community in Manalapan who used to come every few months and used to make a hoagie. It's basically a soft baguette roll, and it's open. And you layer it with I think there's a lot of the layers that you're talking about are in this. You have a vinegary pepper dip, with a lot of meat, and you fold it in half and you cut it. I think that would also be a good second.
Okay.
But that's your turn.
All right, a
hoagie.
By the way, if you hear clinking, I'm trying to arrange my bracelets so they stop making these noises, because I think it will sound in the recording. You'll hear like clink, clink. So my apologies for that. Okay, for me, my dream sandwich is potentially a baguette that has a little bit of like that chewy and the crispiness, or a toasted bagel. One of the two. Living in Holland, it's probably more a toasted bagel than a baguette. So, all right, one of the two. And I first make myself, my fat is amazing avocado that's like that green, just the right amount of softness and like the right amount of hardness. Exactly. Like roughly mashed, not finely mashed. So that's my fat layer on the bagel. And then I add...
We should add a disclaimer to this podcast not to listen it on a fast day because you'll get hungry.
No fasting, yeah. Okay, then I would thinly slice a shallot and sprinkle it around, because that's A, for crunch, and for like heat. And then I would take Maldon sea salt, which is like this beautiful crystallized thin flaky salt, and I would sprinkle it on top. Then I would make myself a sunny side up with some Aleppo chili, and when it is perfect, I would wait a second. I would squeeze lemon, that's my acidity, on top of the avocado, and a drizzle of olive oil, like the good expensive kind, and then I would put my egg on top of that, and I would add some more Aleppo chili and salt on the egg. I would close it.
Would you add cheese?
No cheese. No. This is like perfect. And the crunch is from the bagel, because it's tightly, slightly toasted. And for me, that is the epitome of an amazing, amazing sandwich. So
I think we've covered the food part.
I think people might get concerned. They'll be like, wow, they are very into food. But you know what?
You have to enjoy your life.
You need to enjoy life. And when you make yourself good food, I'm not talking about like ready-made, preserved food, but really like good, fine ingredients.
And healthy, it's actually.
Yeah, you live better. I mean, your hoagie sandwich, I cannot say is healthy because it's filled with deli meats, which are...
processed.
Yeah. Okay, before we exit the food questions, I would like to ask you, Melech, what food for you, this is our little health part of the podcast, is like a no-go? You do not eat it, you do not touch it. Like, this is my like limit. I would never ever eat this. So
I think there's two things. If it's a drink, I would never drink Coke. I think that's like the epitome of like unhealthiness. And food wise, I would try to stay far away from soup powder, because I think it's very, very unhealthy. Also, this like dehydrated stuff. Like, if I need to come to be making a soup with soup powder, it's a cop out. So I think those are the two things that I would really stay far away from.
Yeah.
You?
Well, I think soup powder, especially the ones that have MSG in it, for those who don't know, it's called monosodium glutamate. It's a chemical preservative that is salty and makes Bisley and all those things, or barbecue chips,
Tastes very good.
Tastes very good, and also be extremely addicting. That's why you want to keep eating it. It is so unhealthy. If you eat it, you get migraines. Rivka gets, our daughter gets migraines. It's just, for me, the epitome of like unhealthiness. Soup powders, I'm with you 100%. And I just want to give a little shout out, because in the next like month, like 4 or 5 restaurants are opening up in Amsterdam, and I really am asking a bakasha nafshis. That means a soulful request. Don't use soup powder. There are so many delicious spices and ingredients out there. You have onion powder, you have garlic powder, you have paprika. You have so many delicious fine ingredients out there. By the way,
there's a lot of mixes that in the mixes they also use.
So look, don't give poison to your customers. It's just not worth it. Like even Marcus, the meat shop, like we don't buy the deli there because they started using MSG in their sausages and all their mixes, and we were getting sick from it actually.
Yeah.
So we really miss our deli, but like our health comes first. So yeah, I'm with you on the MSG and on the soup powder.
That's your no-go for food?
Well, I don't have the self-control that you have. Like if you strictly will not eat something, you will not eat it. I'm not such a fanatic like you, but I think anything that has caffeine in it is something that I will not touch. I actually can't have caffeine. Weird things happen to me when I drink caffeine. Like, think about people who smoke weed. Caffeine kind of does that for me. I start to get very high. Weird things happen.
Hallucinate.
I don't hallucinate from caffeine, but I could. That is true, because I can get sleep paralysis from caffeine. My heart starts to race. I get extremely hyper. I just feel like I need to run, and like there's things shooting out of my body. So I stay away from caffeine. That's for me not like an option. All right. I think that people have heard enough about our food preferences.
Addictions.
Or allergies or whatever. And we should ease into our next subject, which we have been really thinking and discussing about.
Which is?
Which is...
Which one are you going to do next?
I don't know.
Should we do religion?
Well, Melach, you're very passionate about this whole topic, so I think you should take the floor about... in Judaism, we have a concept called veer, freedom of choice. And that's really, Hashem created this big world, and animals, they have their tasks. They have to eat, they have to create, procreate, and they don't have seichel like a man. They have, their animal instincts. Well, they have their animal instincts to keep themselves alive, and they give a lot to humanity, but they're not man.
They don't have a choice.
Right. And man was created with the gift of having freedom of choice. And it's a very interesting
and freedom of choice.
Yes, it's a very interesting topic, and I would like you to expound more, since you are well versed in it, and I'm just going to be, for once, a listener.
Let's see if that is possible. Now, basically, we in Chabad there's the Rambam, which is Maimonides, has written up all the laws in Torah in a very ordered fashion, and we recently restarted the cycle from anew, and this past week we were learning about Bechira Chavshis, freedom of will, like you're allowed to choose whether you do the good or the bad, and obviously you have the consequences that are connected to it.
But the book is called Sefer HaMitzvos, no? Or
no,
the Rambam's?
No, it's Sefer HaMitzvos is something else.
Another book written by the Rambam.
Yeah.
So this is
called the Yad HaChazaka.
Oh, so it's a section of one of the Rambam's...
The Rambam's main work, basically, was the Yad HaChazaka, and that's he goes through the whole Torah and explains everything in detail, very in a very fashioned way. And this past week we were up to Bechira Chavshis, about freedom of choice, and it was very interesting for me because I very often had the discussion in yeshiva or this and that it's not fair. It's not really freedom of choice, because if I tell you you have house A and you have house B, and if you could choose whichever house you want, but if you choose house B, you'll die, then it's not a fair choice. Because if you tell me A is the Torah and the mitzvot and you do right, good, and if you take B, you do the avirot, you do whatever, you do bad stuff, you'll die, because it basically it's not good for a Jew to do these things. So
things that disconnect him from his relationship with
God.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it's not fair. So then it's not real free choice. If I tell you, yeah, you can eat this sandwich or this sandwich, but this sandwich you're gonna die from poison. So then you don't really have free choice. So, but the reason why in the end it is free choice is because there's always a back door at choice B, and which is considered teshuvah. You're always able to do teshuvah. If ever you choose B and you say, hey, listen, I'm going to in house B, and you die, or you eat a sandwich and you die, you're always able to do. Hashem will always take you back. God will always take you back in the sense that you do teshuvah. So it is
there's
really
like an
a free
antidote,
choice.
basically.
Exactly. By making the wrong choice, Hashem also said, God also said, hey, listen, you can always come back and do teshuvah and try again to be in front of the house and make the right choice, and this time choose A, which then it is a free choice, because yes, A is to life, B is to dead, kind of, sort of, death, and but because we have teshuvah, it actually makes the free choice a real free choice.
But like, how do we incorporate this concept without looking at God as this, like, scary Father in heaven who's ready to smite us if we make the wrong choice, and is ready to embrace us when we make the good choice, because we constantly are making bad choices. And like you said, we find our way back or not. Some people have to wait many years till they find their way back, or need to go up after 120 and maybe need to come back into the world to accomplish what they missed in this world. So how do we forge a healthy relationship with godliness, with a higher power, without being so afraid? And actually, I was having this discussion with my friend on Shabbos, because we learn in Chassidus all the time. It says that we have to love and fear God, but the way the Alter Rebbe, the Tanya, actually translates fear is a little bit different than fear,
being
I'm
scared.
scared, I'm afraid. It's more like
awe. I'm
so in awe. This awesome fear, like when you see something, I know this shouldn't be an example, but when we went to Disneyland, okay, with the kids in Paris, and every time you go into the park, there's 10 entrances, and every time you come into the next entrance, you feel this
majesty,
this awesome, wow. And I almost started to cry. I know you weren't, but I was just totally blown away. And every time you see another castle, you're just wow. So in a way, lahavdil, not to compare, but
So in order to get there, I understand your question.
So no, but what I want to ask you is that, so obviously in my head, I know this idea that Hashem's greatness is so awesome that I wouldn't want to do anything that would jeopardize my connection or my relationship with Hashem. So I always want to choose what would give me more connection. But even though I know that in my mind, for some reason we're raised and conditioned to feel like if we choose wrong, Hashem's going to punish us. Well, how do we fix that religious dysfunction in our brain?
I would say two things about it. Number one is about stories, and I'll get back to that in a second. The second thing is that about one second, there was the stories I want to tell you. The second is to build a relationship. If you never met your father and suddenly someone shows you, oh, hi, by the way, this is your father, and you're already an adult, this and that, in order for you to feel love, there's a natural love that you're like, oh my God, that's my father. But then if you want to build up, you need to start getting to know your father. You need to spend time together. You need to learn about your father. What did your father do? How did he, how did he get to where he is right now? This and that. And then slowly but surely, you find a way to learn. And the way to learn about God is in Chassidut, it's easier to learn about God. So by learning Chassidut, you're able to get closer to your father. And by understanding him more, you also understand more the awe and the greatness of God. And then it's easier to love him. That's step number one. So you need to invest in learning more about God in order to know more about your Father in heaven. So then you will be closer to him. That's number one. Number two, I think there's a mistake, even though that there's a great advantage about stories that are told about big rabbis, and they did these miracles, and this happened, and the guy checked this, and then he died, and then he did this, and he was alive again, and the rabbi gave him a blessing. And all these things have programmed our mind to a certain sense that 1 + 1 = 2, meaning to say you eat a pig sandwich, a ham sandwich, you die. And if you on Shabbat you turn on the light, a lightning comes and kills you. Those are not the facts of life. It doesn't happen like that. There's many very good people that are not Shomer Shabbat and don't eat kosher, and there's very good Jewish people that do all the things that God told them, and they're not necessarily successful in life. So but because we have very many times been programmed in a way by stories that we heard about big rabbis, that someone came and got a blessing and suddenly they had children. You know what I'm saying?
But those things are valid. There is validity to it.
No, there's good.
But it could program our brain to think in a certain way, because at the end of the day, whether the person is choosing to eat kosher or not to eat kosher, those are all choices that they're making in their connection to the divine. So, and even the people who are making good choices for their soul spiritually may not see the physical rewards in this world. Maybe they'll see it in the world to come. Maybe it won't be physical, tangible things like money, but they'll see rewards in their children and the beautiful homes that their children build. So and there's a lot of things at play when we talk about freedom of choice and this whole idea of looking at God in a healthy way, actually.
These stories program you in a sense to look at it black and white. but there's so much gray in the world that it's sometimes very hard to see. When if you would look only at these stories and you would think that Judaism is based on these stories that you hear about rabbis this and rabbis that and miracles here, miracles there, you really think you eat a sandwich, you die, a pig sandwich, and if you turn on the light, you get hit. In fact of life, that's not true. It does happen, but those stories are always they magnify the situation in order to make the story or whatever it is. I do feel that there is an importance to tell those stories to children and that, but always with a disclaimer that that is not real life.
So actually, there is something interesting because there is idea. Like, I think what you're talking about is also when we were growing up, we had those blue books, the Machanayim books, which were stories that were with beautiful pictures about like stories that happened to like Jewish folk in Russia and Ukraine, and also like in the Tanakh, like different stories that like, you know, were about, a lot of them were about Jewish persecution and how the Jew persevered in the end. And there's something about those stories. Not only that, also like a guy did a good deed and then suddenly became very rich. Right. So I do think though that the difference between good and bad was much more clear in the time of the temple. Yeah, and even 500 years ago. And as the world progresses, there's more and more darkness, and it's harder to see the difference. The light. Between good and bad. And so I do think those stories, there is something about it that builds a certain amount of yirat shamayim, which is, as we say, fear of heaven, but more awe of heaven. And I think yirat shamayim is something very important for our children to have, because it's I'm not saying that you shouldn't say these stories, don't get me wrong, but I do feel that very often that has given us maybe a false sense of that, like it's 1 + 1 is 2, and there's so much gray area, which actually brings us to our next topic about politics, where many times in politics we very much see the right and the left, and in the middle there's nobody, whereas the main and most people are in the middle. Like if you would live in a Twitter bubble, you think everybody's Republican on the right, and on the left you have the Democrats, and that's it. And in the middle there's nobody. But I actually think that the biggest part and the biggest chunk of people just want to live their life, and that the government should stay out of their life and help the people that need it. But, you know, don't mix into your life. But sometimes you get into like a certain loop in any social media, and you think like, oh my God, this is the world. And like you get so deep into it that you're like, oh, this is it. But it's really not. And if like just turn off your phone, actually doesn't exist anymore. Exactly. It doesn't affect you in any way, but sometimes we let it affect us, even though it really shouldn't. And actually, we were having this conversation a lot lately, that we're living in a time where we could actually choose what we want to consume. Talking about choices. Yeah. We can choose what kind of information we would like to absorb and include in our mind space. And I think, and also especially, let come into your house. Yeah, as someone myself who has been a news junkie since I'm like 14 years old, literally, I think my whole life actually. I can't remember a time where I wasn't interested in what was happening in the world. I'm a very curious person, so I like the news and I like to know what's up to date. And I feel sometimes, and I'm not trying to be mean to anybody that doesn't follow the news. Feel free not to, but I sometimes feel like when you speak to someone, they're like, yeah, and the president of America is like, oh, who's the president right now? I'm like, oh, that's Trump. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, I heard about the guy. No, actually, it's not Trump, but... I know. Oh, no, it's not? I know, there's different opinions. No, but I'm saying, like, I do want to be up to date to know what's going on, but I also chosen to take a step back from the news, and because I very much understand that the news is colored. Like, what we're getting fed is not necessarily always the actual news that's happening. Right, but that's why I really like it, is that you can choose and curate exactly who you want to listen to and who you want to get your information from. At the same time, I started to realize that all this information that I've been absorbing, it is starting to take a toll on my mental health, because I feel like it's in your head. We are surrounded with so much information. And for example, if someone in America is sick, in our Jewish community that we are connected to in America, we all of a sudden know about it. So that adds another layer of toxicity. But then it's already if you're connected. But what if it's like a friend of a friend of a friend, but happen to be that it's on your feed, on what's called, someone is posting to say Tehillim,
You're already reading, oh, why is this person? Oh my God, that's really sad. That's
but we're carrying so much baggage for news that's happening all over the world, whether it's personal to our own Jewish community. Oh, this baby, a baby drowned, and we're all saying Tehillim for the baby that he should survive. Or all those things. On one hand, it's so beautiful that the whole world could gather together and pray for someone who's sick. But it also takes a toll because we already have so much going on in our own circle, in our own communities, and now we're carrying from so many other places. So we could see that information, but we have to find a way to let it go over our heads and not absorb it.
By instead of absorbing it.
Yeah, because it could really make us sick. We'll talk about that another time.
Some say.
I think so. Well, it also depends. Some people are more sensitive, and I think I've begun to have an awareness that I do get affected strongly by the things I'm seeing, the things I'm listening to. So I need to become more careful about what I let my eyes see, what I let my ears hear. I'm not like.
Funny thing is that with our children, we're more sensitive to it. By us, we're like, it's okay.
We can handle it, but no.
But to a certain extent, we could, but we need to be more aware.
Yeah. That
it could affect us too.
It is affecting us.
Talk for yourself.
Okay, so I think that's why. I haven't been I know what's going on in the world, but I'm trying to have a more passive relationship with
not
news
go
and
down
media.
The rabbit hole.
Forget about rabbit holes. Just not getting so preoccupied with it. I'll give an example. Okay, so I sometimes follow certain people on social media, and there's this idea that people are very, very dramatically and upset about, and I agree with them, that there's many ultra-Orthodox and Jewish media, specifically printed magazines like the Mishpacha, the Modia, the Bina, the Ami, that will not print faces of Jewish women, of women at all. So let's say Hillary Clinton was running for president, they would not show her face.
They would have an article about it, but without a picture
exactly.
of her.
Or if they're talking about a Rebbetzin who had passed away, they'll show a picture of her husband and her sons, but they won't show a picture of her. And this is something that's new. It did not exist 50 years ago that Jewish women's faces would be erased from publication. I don't know who created this idea. There's no halachic backing to it, and maybe people will disagree with me, but I think that if we don't show our girls and our future women of the Jewish people examples and photos of women that they could look up to, and they only show men, it's like we're basically erasing Jewish women.
But it's not even in men's magazines.
It's in women magazines.
Women magazines that they don't have women faces.
Right. For me, it doesn't affect personally because I'm Chabad, and in Chabad magazines, they always show beautiful women and, dressed according to the standard of Chabad, standards of modesty. But at the same time, this idea that you would put a sticker on a woman's face, it's something that happens.
Jewish women have faces.
Yeah, no, but it's something that happens in Saudi Arabia. I find that it's a huge, huge tragedy for Jewish women. But I'm not either someone who's going on social media and getting all incensed about it, because it's just I don't get incensed about anything on social media. It's not my vibe. It's not my thing. But
you won't buy those magazines.
So
I
won't subscribe to them. No, I will buy it if there's something interesting, but I'm not going to subscribe to magazines that wouldn't print my picture. I just find it. Well, this might come to haunt me because I am trying to publish a book, but I don't need my face in it. But that's another thing for another day. But I'm very conflicted because it really goes against my inner core value of who I am as a Jewish woman. And so this is an example. So when certain publications, let's say, make a music video all about women, but they a woman Torah Masorah, they made a beautiful song about moras, about women teachers, but they didn't really show the face of a teacher. They showed her back, they showed her arm, they didn't show her face. And so for me, that's not inspiring as a teacher, because I'm are you for real? You can't even show our face? That's against Torah values. So when people get make uproars about it on social media, you could think oh my God, this is the end of Jewish women and the Jewish community. But when you just turn off your phone, you realize that the only people who care about it are the people who are on social media, and most of the people who these songs are being, or these magazines are being curated for, are actually not on social media, so it doesn't really affect their lives.
But then you can also choose, because as you're saying, you turn off your TV, you don't see the news, you turn off your phone, you're not on social media.
Right.
You choose to get upset about it, and your day-to-day life is really not affected by it.
But I could also say that when Jewish women buy those magazines and they don't see themselves represented in it, I think subconsciously it does affect them. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, you're a man.
But I agree that their women's faces should be shown, but
okay.
I don't think it's affecting you on a day-to-day life.
If you look at the Hebrew Hamodia, you see a family of 2 fathers and 2 sons eating yogurt at their breakfast table as an advertisement. It looks like they're a gay couple. So
maybe they're advertising for that now.
Exactly, with payas and everything. So it's a little bit strange. A family has a mother. Sorry, you cannot.
I agree with you, but it doesn't affect you in your day-to-day life. Our daughters will be confident enough that their faces don't need to be in Hamodia, and they'll be just fine.
Right, we'll make our own magazine.
That's it.
No, but it is a topic we could go on and on and on about. But I was just using that as an example, but of media that you could choose to absorb or not. Like, I could choose to buy those magazines, or I could choose to buy magazines that are supportive of women.
No, 100%, and they should be. And I think religious women have faces. #
Women's faces should never be erased. That's it. Nothing to discuss. All right. I think we got controversial. We might get, last time our podcast got fluffed a few feathers. We don't want to do that again.
Why not?
Actually, fluffing feathers mean people are listening, which, you know what? We want to fluff feathers. If you have a problem with it, you're always welcome to have dialogue with us. You can email us. But come on, this is just our personal podcast. You have the choice
to turn it off
if you don't like it. If you don't like the heat, leave the kitchen.
All right, what's the next topic?
Oh, wow, we're really flowing over here. Melech, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
We're married for now
14
years.
Up to 15 soon.
14 and a half years. And, we're growing a family together. We have 4 beautiful children, 2 boys and 2 girls. And we have different moments. We have moments of sadness, of hardship, of happiness, all kinds of times within our life, the ups and the downs. There are times and moments that you all of a sudden have this feeling like you get like choked up and like you feel like time has stopped. And it could even be for a few seconds that you all of a sudden are like filled with an overwhelming sense of gratitude to Hashem for everything that you have, for that moment that you're experiencing. And I would like to know if you can share with our greater audience 1 or 2 times that you experience moments like that and what it's like for you. So,
well, I actually every night that I lay my head in my bed, I feel great gratitude that another day passed by and I get to go to sleep. So that's every night.
I know. By the way, it's true. Every night you're like, yeah. I love my bed.
That is true. But no, actually, it's fun. I was asking you before we started if we have podcasted after Mendel's bar mitzvah, and then we haven't. So
we did once after Mendel's bar mitzvah, and we put your speech in the beginning of the podcast.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
So I think that was a moment that I really felt a great gratitude to everything. It's like it came all together. You know what I'm saying? His bar mitzvah and like family that came and friends that came, and like the work towards the bar mitzvah and Mendel working very hard for his bar mitzvah and everything came together. I think that was a very, very special moment for me personally, but I think in general in the family, like we still see the pictures on our screen come by, and like even tonight Mendel was saying, oh, Friday night, I don't remember, what was Friday night again by bar mitzvah? And he's like, oh yeah, right. And then he started remembering, and it's like, it was a very special moment. So I would choose that for my moment where I like really, besides every night when I lay in bed, but that was very special for me.
So I feel like I have sometimes moments like that. They happen where I feel like time is standing still, and I usually ruin that moment when I pull out my phone to capture it on a video. I I could even describe at my wedding when I got married to you, and I was sitting there and you were walking towards me. That was like a moment where I felt like time was like stopping. Like it was just me and you. There were hundreds of people around. I didn't see or hear anyone. It was as if like I was so like connected. It was like just you and like the divine coming towards me. I could really feel that energy. So that's like an example of like a moment in time where time stops for me. But it's even small things like, you know, when
and then I whispered in your ear.
You did. It was very sweet. It was a very special moment. Maybe we'll share a clip from a video from our chuppah. It was very special. I think like when all of a sudden, when our children are all together and there's like a moment where everyone is at peace, no one's angry, no one's fighting, no one's shoving. I'm in a calm space, you're in a calm space, and like all of a sudden like one kid like puts the arm around another. Like it can happen sometimes, like very rarely, but sometimes I all of a sudden like my whole heart like opens and I feel like tears coming to my eyes because I just feel like in that moment like
so sincere.
This is what it's all about. Like I think this was like 2 years ago we were in the sukkah and Avram Fried had just came out with his song Abba 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 Melech HaOlam, and your name is Melech. So all the kids were singing, they were pointing at you and they're saying Abba 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 Melech HaOlam, and I think I even got it on a video. I did, but that moment was just like this feeling of like so much love that the kids have for you, and it was just very special. Like it just comes to my mind as a moment in time that stops.
That was actually a positive time when I was happy, but I also you told me before that the moment when you're was also this past sukkah.
Yeah, this sukkah, my cousin passed away, and I found out like on Hoshana Rabbah Erev Yom Tif. I was cooking in the kitchen when I got the call that he had passed away, the day before, before Shabbos, and I like really it was it was one of the most painful moments of my life. Because I never had a loss that was so close. Yeah. And I started to cry and really like really bitter crying. Like I never cried like that. And I sat down on the floor and I couldn't even stand. And like the kids were like, and it was the first time that they experienced seeing me in so much grief. And then I think I told you what happened and you explained it to the kids and they just.
And they knew our cousin.
Now I'm gonna start crying. They all came around me and they just like held me like.
They gave you.
Like you know they're 13, 12, 10, and 5, and on one hand you could say it's so traumatic for children to see such grief, but I actually think it's really healthy because life is gonna give us hard ups and downs, and if we don't have our children experience those moments. Then they're not going to be able to deal when those things happen to them. And this was like a moment. Yeah, it was so comforting. Like I could still, when I think about it, I feel the embrace of the kids, like just standing around me and like holding me and telling me like it's going to be okay. Yeah, that was.
But those are moments that, you know, the time is with positive moments and negative moments. Like time is stand still for like a few seconds or sometimes a few minutes, and that you really.
It leaves an impression.
Yeah. To the core.
Yeah. That they could have so much like empathy and care and warmth and love in happy times or in times of grief.
Yeah. Hard times. Good times. And bad
very,
times.
very special.
That's basically it.
Yeah, wow. We're already talking for 43 minutes. I could go on for like another 2 hours, but
we have to keep something for the next time to podcast.
For sure. But Melech, before we end up, just so we could have some fun, what are things that make you totally lose it? Like we all have things that make us like snap or get, unless you're like totally zen, like there are things that can just make you so angry, like that you start to like flip. I mean, obviously, you know, we work on ourselves and we try to stay calm in all situations, but what is something that really makes you lose your shizzle?
Well, I think the hardest thing is when you're trying to arrange something and the people you're talking to just have zero common sense. Like, let's say for work, I remember one time I sent my computer for repair to HP, Hewlett Packard, and they the computer came back and it was totally wiped. It's like the whole company, all the details, because it was not just the computer, it was also our server. And so I called them up. So I said, "What happened? Did you guys replace the hard drives?" He goes, "No, we only replaced the power supply." I'm like, "The power supply is just a plug where you plug in." Like that was. It's like, yeah. I'm like, "So why did you wipe my hard drive?" "Yeah, that's just protocol." I'm like, "Dude, are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, look on the email. It's in there. We pre-warned you." I'm like, "You sent me that email when the computer was ready by you. Like, I couldn't make a backup anymore by the time it was by you. Like, it doesn't make any sense." "Yeah, well, I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do." I'm like, and there's just like no one to talk to.
Nowadays you have a cloud. This was before the cloud?
Yeah. There was no clouds yet. But I'm saying, like, and there was nobody to talk to. It's like, "Yeah, sorry. We just wiped your computer." I'm like, dude, that could have been the end of my company. You know what I'm saying? I was lucky that I had stuff in my email and I was able to, like, kind of back it up and, like, go back in time. But, like, that could have been the end of a company if, like, your computer, whatever. So I learned from it to back up your stuff every month and this and that. But it was just... Over there, the guy was just like as dumb as a doorknob, and
dumb
like,
as a doorknob.
as dumb as a doorknob, and it was just no one to talk to. And like, and sometimes when you deal with governments, like with permits and stuff like that, like also it's the same problem. It's like as if you're going, like you're talking to the wall. Like that can really, really frustrate me.
Okay.
And you don't have any frustrations? Oh.
I can get. I have been working on my anger management. It's a work in progress, but I think what makes me very, very here in Holland that I didn't necessarily always have in the States is it's really hard to speak to a person on the phone. You have to always send emails or like actually physically go to a place to be heard, whether it's a doctor's office or a dentist's office. Like no one picks up the phone, and if it is, like the customer service here is just so bad. And like when you're dealing with a medical situation, you're going round and round in circles. No one, like there's no empathy at all. It's like very, I mean, I have to say, take a paracetamol is the only solution that doctors in the Netherlands have. I have managed to cultivate very good people who help me when I'm dealing with medical situations, but it took a very, very long time to find the right people who could help me.
It takes a while to find the right ones.
Yeah, to like find your own recipe of people who like
will listen,
who will listen and advocate for you. But like in general, yeah, you're on your own here, man.
You're on your own in the whole world.
So when I'm confronted with like, I have a hard time with authority.
So when the doctor says, "Oh, I can't help you," no, that's not an option.
Yeah. So I sometimes have to take melech with me so I stay classy.
And even then it doesn't help.
It doesn't help always, no. But you don't advocate for me. I tell you, like, advocate for me.
You want me to scream instead of you.
You don't scream.
I don't. And it's maybe better that way.
So those kind of things, like dealing with arrogant people is very, very hard for me because... You know, if there's anything in life that you can learn about arrogant people with like some doctors could be arrogant, or just people in life who are arrogant and don't consider that there's another viewpoint or other people at play, or, you know, greeting people or whatever it is, because there's just this huge chip on their shoulder. It's very hard not to like react to it or get upset at it.
I think part of it is that you want to fix them. Like, I'm gonna teach them. They're all, because you're a teacher, and teachers think that they can teach everybody, but not everybody is teachable.
I don't know if that's a word, teachable.
Well, now it is.
Maybe teachable. Yeah. So it's hard for me. I don't like to be confronted with arrogance. It's very hard for me to
with
like
people that are not teachable.
Yeah. But I also starting to understand that in this great big world, we all have our space. And someone else's deficiencies in the space called world is not necessarily my responsibility.
No, and also it's very hard to go to a doctor's office and you want him to be an empath and like help you out. Like they're just there for the facts. Like, hey, listen, you're not dying here. This is emergency room. Very sorry, we're not here to help you. You know what I'm saying? And like, I'm here to be helped.
No, but like, for example, when David was a baby, I was just 18 months old and Rivka was a baby. He had bronchitis or he was coughing. And Rivka was maybe 3 weeks old, and I went to the doctor's office, and I was tired, and David was coughing, and the baby was crying, and I come into the doctor's office, and I finally just sat down in the chair, and it was like one of those intern begeleiders or something, you know, like students who were learning to be a doctor. She didn't look at me. She was behind a computer screen. I was new in the Netherlands, maybe a year and a half, and I all of a sudden just started to cry. I was so overwhelmed. I said, he's sick, he's not feeling well. And she just was like, okay, just
let
give
me
him
listen.
time. Let me listen. Like, and I remember in that moment I learned something. I was like, if she would have just said, hey, honey, you just had a baby, you're overwhelmed.
You're having a hard time.
Like, it's going to be okay. Come here. Like, it's going to be okay, mama. Like, it would have just made me feel better, like feel seen or heard. It would have been so easy.
Yeah. Basically, recently we went to emergency room. We'll maybe tell later another time why, but Baruch Hashem, everything passed. I was saying we first had one doctor who was really like arrogant, like, sorry, we can't help you here, take a Tylenol or whatever, some stronger.
Yeah.
But then when we went to another doctor, she said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to be able to help you today because it was emergency room and it wasn't emergency, whatever. She said, but I will try to do A, B, and C. And she understood the situation. She was kind. She was able to listen.
She calmed me down.
She calmed you down, and it really helped. And so maybe that's a lesson for the unteachable people. Know that, you know, sometimes you don't have the solution, but sometimes just be there, have the listening ear, and be nice and gentle and kind. Caring, and that's already enough. You don't have to have the solution always.
I kind of know that they could do that, so I'm like, why can't I just do it for myself? Like, I don't need her to tell me that I'll be okay. I could just tell myself. But sometimes when you're so deep in like a tunnel, when you feel like there's something really wrong with what's going on with me and I need you to like whatever. So anyone who you encounter, if they don't validate you, at least for me, if a doctor tells me, well, you came here, so you must be okay, like, or make some kind of like snarky comment.
Yeah, it was not nice.
The beer inside of me gets very incensed. So yeah, that makes me snap. Arrogance. So we should end on a positive note, though, that
you are much better right now.
We are hoping to start soon to bring guests onto our podcast. We have a few people in mind, local people and people also from abroad. But we really have to just get down to it and busy. We've been so busy. But email us at, I don't even know our email. We haven't used it in so long.
It's something with podcast.
A couple thoughts 2008 at gmail.com to tell us what you would be interested in hearing from us.
Peace out.
Peace out, people. That's been real.
Thank you so much for joining our podcast today.
We hope you enjoyed our couple of thoughts and join us again for our next episode. If you have any comments or questions about anything that we discussed today, you are welcome to email us at acoupleofthoughts2008@gmail.com. And we wrote 2008 because that's the year that we got married. So, anyways, yes, join us again and peace out. The cover song that we have playing in the background is Modeh Ani Kol Boker from Omer Adam, a song that we love to play for our family and just gives us drive and energy in our service to Hashem and our thankfulness for everything that we have in our lives. So we hope you enjoyed that song as well.